All right, so we're back with some Master Duel content. So this game came out a couple days ago, kind of like shadow dropped Tuesday night, and really came out Wednesday morning because that was when it was able to go live with the actual servers, and you're actually able to play. Otherwise, just download and stare at a maintenance screen. So we were all there. We were all there at 11 o'clock at night on Tuesday. Just disappointed, but super excited. I've been playing this game a bunch, and I really like it. It's really kind of as trailers kept coming out and things like that, little leaks here or there. It's just everything sounded so good, and I was almost like waiting for like what's the catch and like is there going to be something where it's just not nearly up to par with some random announcement they make or something. And honestly, I mean, everything so far has been great. I mean, I think the interface is nice. All the cards, except it's not fully updated with Burst of Destiny yet, but we're getting there. They give you quite a few gems in the beginning that you're able to craft with things in the shop here. And it's honestly been like a really fun experience. I haven't had any issues with rulings, which was one thing I was thinking about that might be an issue. We kind of have a pretty limited store, just a couple different tabs. But the main thing I wanted to get into today was looking at the current deck I've been playing and climbing the ranks with. I've made it all the way to Platinum 5, and I'm level 10 with mainly just this one deck, and that is one of my favorite decks of all time, Salamangreat. So yeah, let's take a look at what we have going on here. So the deck at first looks pretty similar to any sort of standard solid deck list, but kind of a couple notes on how the game works. So just like in real life, there's different booster packs you could open to have different cards in them. And there's kind of one giant master pack that has most of the meta cards, and then there's some sub packs which are archetype specific. So there's, for example, a Salamangreat themed pack which allows you to pull mostly Salamangreat cards. So that kind of helps with the deck building. And there's obviously cards, and there's obviously packs for Drytrons and Tri Brigade and Sky Strikers and so on. So it's not too bad. Cards are divided up into these different rarities. So there's normal, rare, super rare, and ultra rare. So that's actually the only four rarities in the game. But then there are different finishes, I guess you could say. So this Ash, for example, is kind of you can think of it as like a common finish where there's really no shiny to it. And then this one has somewhat of a glossy finish. And there's also a higher rarity, which unfortunately I have yet to pull. That it looks really good. It's it's like a lot shinier, so it's kind of more of a rainbowy shiny instead of this like silvery shiny, and it looks pretty good. I do think that they could probably do a little more with the rarities in this game, and probably, or I guess specifically with the finishes, but that's to be determined on what they do. But first, let's look at the actual deck profile, what you've all been waiting to see. And you gotta play 3 Ash. That's a staple in the TCG, and even though Master Duel is a slightly different format, technically there's a few different cards that are at different quantities on the banned list, on the banned and limited list. And honestly, it's just gonna always be a good staple. That was one of the first staples I crafted. And I think most people are going to want 3. You can grab 1 through a bonus pack, so that's nice, so you don't have to actually craft 2. I play 1 Flame Buffalo. This card is really good. I think overall it's probably worth me crafting a few more, but now if you guys aren't familiar with how the crafting system works, basically you can click on any card, and then it'll give you the option to dismantle it for 10 points or generate one for 30 points. So that's kind of always the ratio. You dismantle any card of any rarity. So this one's I guess a normal card, you could call it. And this one would be a rare card. And normally it'll only give you 10, but this one is a shiny version, so you actually get 15. But it still costs 30 to generate, and there's only a chance of it being shiny. So that's kind of the gist of what the crafting system is. So for all intents and purposes, if you want an ultra rare Ash, for example, you could either pull it from a pack or just dismantle 3 other ultra rares. And that works for basically every card, regardless if you have it or not. So it's not too bad of a system in terms of actually getting cards, although once you go beyond the free cards, the gems are pretty expensive. So we'll have to see if they do any sort of events or tournaments in the future here. But I'm thinking that it's probably going to be somewhat expensive to buy additional cards, and that's going to be how they're going to actually kind of fund this game because it's obviously free to play, so or free to download, I guess I should say. And then if you want to buy packs beyond what they give you, that's it's going to cost you a little bit, but that'll be for another video. But yeah, so one Buffalo probably would want to max out at 3. It's such a good draw 2 card. That's probably a must. I'm just being a little careful with my resources right now. Foxy, I play a lot of salad cards, so this is a great card to play at 3. You can also, Skill Drain is at 3 right now in this format, so you're going to really want to max out on Foxy, at least in my opinion, because if it's in the grave, you can pitch a Salamangreat card to pop a spell and trap on the field, and that resolves in grave, so you can get around Skill Drain like that. Gazelle, obviously the MVP of the deck. It actually is the only limited card in this entire deck. I guess you could count Regeki, but in terms of archetype cards, everything else is fully unlimited. So that's really cool. This card's great. You're definitely going to want to play it. 3 Spinny, this card. You could argue to play maybe 2, but it's a really good card. Now that we have Mirage Stalio back in the TCG as well as Master Duel, it's really good because then it comes back and then you don't have to banish it if you overlay for Mirage Stalio. Falco is kind of the dark horse. I don't think a lot of people fully utilize Falco to its fullest potential. You really, once you start playing the deck a bit, you'll kind of figure out how to play Foxy and Gazelle and Spinny and Jack, right? But when you figure out really the secret to how you can use Falco to gain as much advantage as possible, it really becomes just it opens up so many doors. It really lets you kind of keep your grind game going, because that's really what Salad's known for. It's this grind game that you really aren't always going to be able to OTK with some of the newest cards like Access Code and Transcode even. You can OTK pretty easily if it's like a somewhat open board, but you don't always find yourself in that position. You're usually trying to kind of grind it out and kind of go back and forth between your opponent. So that's why I like the deck a lot. I think it's it's one of those decks where it doesn't always just end on turn 2 like the game. You're usually able to play out. You're able to play every hand as well. I mean, it's a very consistent deck. So it's I don't know. From my experience, it's just been a lot of fun. So I really enjoy it. And next we got 3 Jack Jaguar. This probably could be put to 2. I mean, the reason we have such high numbers is because it gets Foxy's first effect live, but also Pot of Desires. You don't want to banish everything, but it's a really good card. Definitely worth it. It's kind of like it's able to come back pretty much every turn by shuffling back a Salad from grave, and honestly, a lot of the times you can benefit from that by shuffling cards like Sunlight Wolf back, and also Mirage Stalio that you don't play. That you always want to have in your extra deck, or even shuffling Baelings, but that's more situational. Foul, another underrated card. I think it's really good for its second effect, where you can lock back row that a lot of people don't actually use. For example, like if you're trying to break a board and you have some extra resources that you can just bait out with Foul, that's pretty much going to be just it's going to force your opponent to do something, right? Because they're going to lock it for the entire turn. So yeah, I mean, if you're going up against 2 or 3 back row and you can just expend the resources to lock them, I mean, it's really good. And honestly, being able to get Jack into grave just using Foul or using Foxy sometimes is what you need to do. If you have if you normal summon Flame Buffalo and say you pitched Foxy, then you could use Jack for Foxy's effect or something like that, because you really want to get your resources in grave, because that's where they a lot of their effects actually kind of you get the most advantage off of. Parallel Exceed, it's the last 3 monsters in the deck, and honestly, this card I did not used to love as much as I do now. I've actually been making Baguska a lot turn 1, and I just think you kind of need it for making Salad a more modern deck. It's Salad plays well on its own, just in its own engine, because there's a lot of options and there's a lot of different paths you can go down. But Parallel Exceed is just kind of on another level, just being able to extend so deep into a deck and just get an additional 2 monsters just for free on the board, and also just make that into any rank 4 you want. So Regeki and Monster Reborn, just 2 staples that I just kind of threw in here because you got them early in the game, and trying to kind of flesh out the deck and kind of fill it out. These I could probably get switched out for something like an Infinite Impermanence, or maybe depending on the format, either Veiler or Droll or something. Just kind of your classic staple hand traps. Smashing Ground. I initially had Lightning Storm in here, but I actually just got like super annoyed that you couldn't use it really like after turn 1 because you always have Sanctuary or Will on the field. So I just kind of threw this in there, and honestly, the number of times it's actually come up is kind of surprising. I don't think I'm keeping this in here for the long run, but just for kind of messing around testing, it's actually been kind of funny. Pot of Desires, it's just one of the best pots for Salad because you don't really care too much about your main deck. You can banish 10 easily, and 99.9% of the time it's not going to matter. You're going to be able to just draw into 2 cards, and sometimes that's Pot of Desires, but that's just the way it goes. I don't think that's a reason to not play 3, in my opinion. Silent Mining, so this was the staple 3 of in the TCG, and it might be a staple 3 of in Master Duel as well. I only opened 1, and I haven't got around to crafting anymore. But with Circle now at 3, you don't necessarily need Signet Mining at 3, and there's enough consistency in the deck that you can kind of get around it. But I would say that it's a great card to have for just being so versatile, and in the kind of combos and play lines you could accomplish. And sometimes it's good at baiting out Ash and things like that. So there's just a lot of possibilities with that. Triple Tactics, the reason it's in here is because I just opened it, and that was the main reason, so I thought I'd throw it in here, but it actually is a pretty fantastic card. I would probably consider playing it at higher quantities if I had them. There's just a lot of hand traps right now, especially Max C, and that's something else entirely to talk about, whether Max C should be in every deck. Honestly, I would assume it probably needs to be in here. I just don't have 3 copies right now, but that's probably the correct play. I think Maxi is just too strong, really not to play. So that's kind of that. But yeah, Triple Tactics, it's a great one of, it comes up a lot. When it goes full. It can kind of honestly turn the tides and basically change a losing game to a winning game, and I think that's just one of the reasons why it's so impactful. So Sanctuary, classic field spell, search with Balinks every time you can. It's just fantastic. Lets all your Link monsters get their effects. Will, it's like a monster reborn every turn, just continuous. So you're gonna want that. Not playing it at 3, you don't really ever want to see 2, but you do want to see it often enough where 2 makes sense to put in your deck, so you can kind of get to it, because you're never really going to be searching it. That's just you're really going to be searching your traps in terms of dumping with Gazelle, right? So next we can talk about Forbidden Chalice. Forbidden Chalice is a really low rarity card in Master Duel, so that's one of the reasons I kind of went for it immediately, just because it's so strong, where it has the duality of being able to negate an effect while also gaining attack. So not only can you use it kind of like an imperm basically, but you're able to also sometimes get some cheeky plays in the damage step and kind of throw your opponent off with the Chalice. So I think it's really good. I've had a lot of success with it so far, but there's probably better cards that could go here, especially a card like Called By, just because Maxi and Ash and Nibiru are kind of pretty rough on the deck. So you're gonna probably want 2 Called By. Once again, I just don't have those as of yet. Still working through the solo mode. But 3 Circle. This is the biggest winner of Master Duel for me, is that the fact that Circle is at 3. It's a lot of fun. Honestly, I do think Circle could come back to 3 in the TCG as well. It's kind of one of those cards where it is a Rhoda, so a lot of times Konami likes to ban Rhodas, but just being a quick play, and you're able to make some cheeky plays around Droll if you use it in the draw phase. For example, you can not get drolled right on Circle. And you're also able to protect a Link monster from other monsters' effects, which can sometimes come up, for example, like maybe chaining to Nibiru or something like that, and protecting your reincarnated Sunlight Wolf. So a lot of cute little plays to play with that. Really good, and obviously you're going to play it at 3. There's no way you're not playing it at 3. Rage and Roar, the last 4 cards in the deck. This has always been my favorite ratio. I really think Rage is really strong, but with so many blowout cards like Duster and Lightning Storm now, Roar has just become kind of a must-have. So I really like when you draw into one of these and you search the other one with Gazelle. It makes the game just go so much easier in your favor. And honestly, I find myself never really bricking on too many traps. So I could after all the testing I've done, I definitely recommend this for sure. So, onto the extra deck, we have Stalio. It's a classic one of. You just want to get something out of the deck with two level 3 monsters. You can summon any solid card and get its effect. So usually you're going for like a Gazelle or something, and then if you link this away into another Salamangreat monster, you can just bounce a card back to hand. So it has a lot of uses. Baguska, like I said, I love to set this up turn 1 and just throw down a Baguska with a couple solid traps and see what they can do, because a lot of times it's a struggle to play through. Baguska in defense, I mean, you can't hit that with Lightning Storm, and if your opponent is really reliant on monster effects to get set up, it's such a hard time for them to really do anything, because obviously once you get to link monsters, they won't be affected by Baguska, but a lot of times your opponent needs to get off like at least 1 or 2 monster effects before they can really get into their link engine. So it's kind of a blowout sometimes. A lot of times people just can't play around it. Bailing, so you gotta pretty much play 3. It's just because if you don't play 3, you're not going to be able to really play any sort of grind game. Bailings is just too good in getting your engine running, because if you just normal summon a Salad with a stacked Grave and you really can't get your engine running, it actually doesn't really do much. You kind of sometimes got to get that monster off the field, and you kind of got to get things going. Update Jammer, classic for the OTK. Update transcode and access code is kind of the OTK package. It just lets you attack twice. That's the main reason with whatever link monster use this as material. Sunlight Wolf, probably the best extract monster. You could argue access code, but Sunlight Wolf just provides so much value to Salad as a whole, getting both a fire monster and a spell and trap back basically every turn. That it's kind of necessary. I actually don't have 3, but you probably should be playing 3. It's just that good, but honestly, 2 works fine for most cases. You're able to shuffle 1 back with Jack, so it's been usable. But I probably will snag a 3rd one in the future here. We have Splash Mage, just helping you link climb. If you're going into like an access code or transcode OTK with only 2 monsters, it actually makes it super doable. So it's kind of crazy. Decode is just kind of in here for the sake that it's just a Cyberse that is potentially good. I probably should throw an Abyss Dweller or a 3rd Sunlight Wolf in this slot, but currently I just have the Decode because that's all I own. And then going over to Transcode, once again, helping you link climb. You can actually OTK with Transcode and Update Jammer alone. You don't actually need access code, so there's a sneaky OTK with that. Heatleo, really, really good card. A lot of people are cutting this in the TCG, but I think this is fantastic. I mean, you're able to shuffle back your opponent's back row, and actually twice if you end up reincarnating Heatleo. It's not once per turn. It's just if you link summon it. So that's really good. And a lot of times in this early format, there's a lot of random jank kind of running around. I mean, you might come up against some sort of like a Drowning Mirror Force or Storming Mirror Force or Magic Cylinder, and just shuffling that back before you go into attack is just, honestly, it could be game changing. I mean, because a mistimed Mirror Force, or mistimed Mirror Force or mistimed Magic Cylinder could really change the whole state of the game just like that. So I mean, it's if you end on an access code and an empty board, that's not super strong, right? So speaking of access code and Boral Sword are 2 kind of game enders. We use these basically when we're trying to OTK. You wouldn't really want to end on these for any reason, unless for some reason you think your opponent can't get over a high attack monster, but that's probably not the case. You're probably just going to OTK. But so I've been having a lot of fun with Master Duel. I'm going to keep playing. I'm going through solo right now and kind of climbing the ranks. But it's really a fun game. It's beautiful, like visually. It's a lot of fun just to play Yu-Gi-Oh in such a controlled format. Because like Dueling Book, it's sometimes it becomes a mess. And you really want to just have the just this pleasant experience of just being able to just play like show all of your options. It's an automated simulator, and it really just kind of is very fluid. So it's a lot of fun. Let me know your thoughts if you picked up Master Duel, what deck you're playing. And I'm also curious if you've spent any money on the game. So far, I've not. But in the future, I might. I might look into how cost-effective it is to get some decks. But from the numbers I've been looking at, it seems pretty expensive. And in the future, I'm going to have a lot of other Master Duel content coming out. And so one of those things is how expensive it is to purchase any given deck. And that is going to be a really cool video. I've been working on kind of the math and looking at the numbers and trying to figure out to get a ballpark of, how much you would actually need to spend to kind of get a fully fleshed out deck beyond the free gems that you're given. And then also we're going to do some gameplay for Salamangreat as well as any other decks that I kind of build in the future here. So yeah, just subscribe for more Master Duel content because there's going to be a lot coming down the pipeline here. It's a really fun game and I've been having a great time with it. So yeah, like the video if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.